The show. I am so glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, whether you're streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or whether you've downloaded the new Extra Sports 1300 app sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the next 3 hours. I do have a pair of guests today. Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 will join me. I think he has made it back safe and sound from Broncos training camp. Get his thoughts. He's been up there quite a bit. So get caught up with Corey on all the goings on up there at training camp, and a new fun game I'd like to try. Say something about the Broncos that doesn't include Bo Nix. I lose the game every time. I never win that game. Maybe Corey can win the game. He's coming up actually in less than 20 minutes. And then Mark Moses will join me, host of the very popular Mark Moses Show down in Central Florida. He's got a few football teams down there that he covers. And I want to ask him about UCF as you're kind of lining up the Colorado Buffaloes schedule and trying to figure out where the wins are to either get them above last year, to bowl eligibility, to the college football playoff. That UCF game is interesting, and I want to get his thoughts on the Golden Knights because he follows them closely. The rest of the time, you could be my guest at 719-247-1313. That is the text and the phone line for your convenience. Or you can find me on X at Gingerly Tweets. I'll say this before we really dive into it. Don't count out the 3x3 teams. One day ago, how are we so bad at this? We dominate 5-on-5, and we're terrible in 3-on-3. The women have won 3 straight, and today the men won both of their games, and Colorado Springs' own Canyon Berry with the game winners in both. So both teams very much still alive. We'll talk about that in a little bit, as well as a lot of other Olympic goings on. But I want to start with football, and in football in some form or fashion, whatever form or fashion last night was, is back. And we will have football in some form or fashion from now until February, which is, it's a good feeling. But we just have to understand that the games that we have for the next few weeks aren't going to be great. Just because we're not seeing, like last night, no CJ Stroud, no Caleb Williams. You did see Brett Rippon. If you were ever wondering, whatever happened to Brett Rippon? Well, now you find out. He's slinging it for the Chicago Bears last night. The game ends in a Bears win, for what it's worth. But it's suspended due to lightning, which I feel like is a semi-annual. Is that what is semi-annual twice a year, or is semi-annual every other year? Because I feel like we've had quite a few Hall of Fame games called off early. Maybe it's just me. But last night wasn't about the Chicago Bears or Lightning or Brett Rippon. It was about the new kickoff. And the first kickoff with the new rules, Joe Buck hyped it up. Here we go. They went silent to build up the drama. Here we go. One of the bigger rule changes in recent football history. Let's witness history together. And it netted the Bears 1 more yard than if it were the old rules and the kicker would have just put it out of the back of the end zone. So it is the first impression, for what it's worth. The first impression of the new kickoff rule in the National Football League got the NFL 1 additional yard. I would cue up the Al Pacino speech from Any Given Sunday, but I don't have it. Right? Something about very short distances and clawing for that inch. Well, this was more than a few inches. This was a whole yard. And I told you this yesterday. Teams are going to play this close to the vest. Sean Payton was asked about it and said essentially the same thing today.
We have a practice with the Packers. We'll be able to probably visit with them a little bit about it and then decide how much we want to do with it and then make sure that we're the only 2 teams that see that film. And then the decision as to how much in the preseason would be very much like how much you want to show offensively or defensively. And let's not forget the importance of the preseason. We're still trying to find the right 53 and select the right players. And so let's give them stuff they know. But we're going to want to cover in return. We're not going to want to, kick touchbacks. So that will be I think the preseason will be important, but the first quarter pole of the season is going to be real important.
I feel very vindicated by Sean Payton because that's essentially what I said yesterday. Week 1 of the regular season is going to be more telling than week 1 of the preseason in terms of what to expect. But my first impressions, seeing it on an NFL field, it looks like the XFL came up with it. Like that was my prevailing thought last night. This looks like something Vince McMahon would have cooked up. Now, I know it's the new XFL. I don't know how much Vince McMahon has to do with that or anything these days, but it looks gimmicky. It looks weird. It looks like the XFL came up with it and the NFL said, we'll take that, thank you. But that's what the XFL has been good for. Right? The last XFL, it was some of the ways they presented their game, right? Some of the camera angles and things like that you see in today's NFL. The new XFL, we don't want any of your players, but we'll take your kickoff. So I guess that's a win for the XFL. I don't know. I don't know why they exist, to be quite honest with you. I could do without it. Right? And I was thinking about this, and Devin Hester, the coincidence of Devin Hester going into the Hall of Fame tomorrow. Deservedly so, by the way. He was mesmerizing on kickoff returns. One of my fondest memories growing up as a fan was watching that return from Dante Hall against the Broncos. I guess that was a punt. But my point is, it will give us moments, right? We'll have a crazy return. We'll have a crazy circumstance where a ball hits the landing zone and the returner has a brain cramp and forgets that, the ball's going to come to him and he's got to return it and somebody's going to recover. We're going to have those kind of moments and maybe they'll be very exciting. But I also think about what my life has been like the last few years and what it would be like if they never instituted this rule. And I feel like it wouldn't be a whole lot different. I think I can stomach the idea of never seeing a kick return for a touchdown again. As much as I enjoy them. If these are the lengths we have to go to in order to manufacture something going on a kickoff, I don't know that I want it. And I got to tell you, this is exactly why the NFL is putting this into place. But I enjoy my respites during a football game. I enjoy my breaks. I enjoy that knowing after a team scores a touchdown, I got time. Very little chance the extra point is going to be missed. Kickoff's going to go back out of the back of the end zone. Maybe I get a commercial break in there. I want that time. I got to get a beverage. I got to check my timeline. I got to go yell down to the basement for my kids to make sure they're still there. I'll take those breaks. I don't need it. I don't need to be locked in after a touchdown is scored. Give me a little bit. And then I'll get back locked in when the other team's offense takes the field. But that's precisely why the NFL is doing this. Because they don't want you to look away. They don't want you to look away for a second. And if they can create something that you can't take as a given, like the ball going back out of the back of the end zone and the ball being placed at the 25, that just increases their chances that you're going to stay locked in for a little bit longer. Perfect time to get in a sponsorship read or one of those picture-in-picture commercials that they integrate into the broadcast. That's why they're doing this. And then they have to do something while keeping player safety in mind. Right? I don't want to be callous, but let's just call it what it is. I'm sure many NFL owners would be just fine in instituting the old kickoff rules and then banning the ability to kick out of the back of the end zone to create returns. Right? Some of them, a few of them, maybe. But they want to create another viewing opportunity, something that you feel like you can't take your eyes off of for one more second. It reminds me so much of the 7th playoff team in each conference, the 17th and soon to be 18th regular season games in Munich and Sao Paulo and Mexico City. I don't need any of that. All of that is superfluous. I'm good with 6 playoff teams. I'm good with 16 games. I'm good with every NFL game being played on American soil. I don't need any of that stuff. But the NFL has this down to a science. And the science is we love football no matter what. There's literally nothing they can do to turn us away from the sport. So they just add a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and we'll keep watching. We may hem and haw. We may complain. But none of this is really for the betterment of the NFL. Let's be real here. At least the kickoff rule, you could possibly make that argument if you have really been negatively impacted by the lack of kickoff returns in the NFL the last few years. At least you could say this has a little bit, but I don't need it. I was good with the way it was. Like I was good with so many things that the NFL used to do that they don't do anymore. Love to get your thoughts on it, though. You love the new kickoff rule, 719-247-1313. Coming up next, I'll ask Corey Roldan of KKTV what he thought about the kickoff rule, and then we'll get into some Broncos training camp stuff. What's the scuttlebutt at Dove Valley when it comes to a particular quarterback and whether he will be starting week 1? That and other training camp stories. From Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 Sports, next. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Another week of Broncos camp, although I don't know when officially the week ends when it comes to Broncos camp because they do things on the weekends. I guess my next guest would probably be a good person to ask about that. He is one half of the dynamic duo with KKTV 11 Sports. He is Corey Roldan. Corey, when is officially the end of a week at Broncos training camp?
Saturday, because they have Sunday off. So, they started last Tuesday. So this is day 9. They're starting to blend all together, Ryan, if I'm being honest. But, yeah, we're at day 9. Tomorrow's day 10. It's going to be a big day tomorrow. They're going to kind of, not like a scrimmage, but almost do some scenarios with scrimmage type plays tomorrow.
Are we all full steam ahead on Bo Nix starting against Seattle?
Yes, 100%. If you asked me last week, I thought Jarrett Stidham was still the most consistent, but it's starting to look more and more like Bo Nix is ready to be the starting quarterback. He went with the ones today. He made some good plays. He's been better at the end of practice than he has been at the beginning of practice, which, he's a rookie quarterback. He's going to make mistakes at times, but he's learning, he's growing. He had a really nice deep shot today in the red zone period, 11 on 11, kind of back, like corner ball to Cortland Sutton. Cortland couldn't get both feet in bounds, but it was a really good pass. He's been able to use his feet, move around in the pocket. He's been very impressive. And I had my doubts about Bo Nix, Ryan. You tweeted out that Auburn picture. I watched him a lot at Auburn, but you could just see how much his game has grown at Oregon and then now with Sean Payton.
So for you, it's the talent and the skill that's coming out and maybe winning you over. What do you think it is with Sean Payton and company that's winning them over to make them feel comfortable as of right now, maybe making him the starter?
Well, he played 61 games in college, so he's very experienced. He's pro ready. He does all the small things that Peyton likes, right? He's able to get the ball out quick. He can read defenses. When there is pressure, he can move in the pocket and make a play. I think all that has impressed Sean Payton, and he wants a quarterback that's able to run his system. That's 1, 2, 3, get rid of the football, and not like Russell Wilson last year, who's kind of trying to make the big play all the time. He was turning around in the pocket. He's taking sacks. That's things that Payton does not want in his offense. He wants you to stay on schedule. He believes Bo Nix will be that guy, and Bo has looked good during camp so far.
Corey Roldan, KKTV 11 Sports, my guest. Sean Payton had the comments to NFL Network the other day, and I'll say something, and I took up a mantle for you because I can't go up there, but you're up there constantly. Jessica's up there with you, or when you can't go, you're constantly
We're there
making
every day.
Right.
One of us are there every day.
Right. You guys are schlepping up there every single day. And with you guys, it's, kind of evasive. It's sometimes combative. And then he goes on with national outlets and he compares this rookie class to 2 separate rookie classes that he had in New Orleans that I know you know very well.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, he should be that way with you and be kind of the other way with the national media, but that's neither here nor there. What did you...
Maybe one day,
Yeah.
He's got to get more comfortable with Denver. He was like that in New Orleans his first few years, but you talked about the 2006 class, the 2017 class. Both those classes really started great runs in New Orleans. The 2006 class was Reggie Bush, Roman Harper, Marcus Colston, a future Hall of Famer, and Javari Evans, one of the best guards in the NFL for a long time. And then they went on to win the Super Bowl 4 years later. And then 2017, when they thought the Peyton Breeze era was almost over, they get Kamara, Lattimore, Ramczyk, Trey Hendrickson. That class is incredible. I don't think this class is either of those 2 classes. I don't see 4 or 5 Pro Bowlers in this class, but I do think this draft class could set the foundation. Aldrich, Estime has looked really good. The running backs as a whole has looked really good. I think Aldrich is just that big kind of pound the football type of running back. You know, Javonte has looked good as well. Sean's always talking about him losing weight. Jaleel McLaughlin has been really good. He's going to be good out the backfield for Sean, kind of that, you know, joker role he likes to call out the backfield. But do I think that this draft class can be like these other two draft classes? No, Ryan, I don't.
And you bring up Estime, and you know, you can't compare player to player, and you know, those draft classes for Peyton, he took different positions and things like that. But there are some positions that are similar. And when he made those comments, I thought of Estime immediately, because correct me if I'm wrong, both Kamara and Reggie Bush, to different degrees, were not bell cow backs to start. So if this has a purpose other than just trying to, you know, puff up his team, I mean, wouldn't Estime be the guy outside of Bo Nix, of course, but Estime be the guy where you can maybe say, well, maybe there's something there with him?
No, I totally can see that. I need to see a preseason game. I need to see him in game action. He's looked good against the Broncos defense every single day. Today is kind of a lighter day because he was injured a little bit during the offseason, but he's looked good. It's a guy who had, 1,700 total yards last season and 18 touchdowns at a powerhouse that is Notre Dame. He's got potential. Javonte, I think, Estime, and Jaleel, I think, are your three backs. It wouldn't shock me if Piron gets cut, just because I think Jaleel kind of takes over that third down back role. But I totally can see it, Ryan.
Corey Roldan, my guest. Defensively, everything for obvious reasons has been about the offense, but defensively, anything that's kind of piqued your interest on that side of the football up at training camp?
Yeah, defensive backs have been making plays. Obviously, you know, like Pat Surtain's probably the best cornerback in the NFL, but that opposite cornerback position battle is kind of interesting to me, because Riley Moss has been thrown in there. You got several guys being thrown in there, but all the DBs have been making plays, Ryan. PJ Locke looks really good. He's taking a leadership role. But yeah, to me, defensively, what's been the most impressive is just the defensive backs making plays, and who's going to be that cornerback number two.
And it's kind of the staple of the Vance Joseph defense, right? It's all, you know, and you could extend this to the pass rushers. It's just obviously Surtain, they have a dude, to your point, like arguably the best corner in the National Football League. But so much of Vance Joseph's defense is just give me a bunch of good players, maybe not great. Give me a bunch of good guys, and I'll just throw them all together, and collectively they'll make plays.
Yeah, 100%, and fit the system. Look at the pass rushers, right? We talked to Jonathan Cooper. We talked to Browning, and then you just have a bunch of guys that aren't superstars, but they could get you 7 to 8 sacks. And it's just going to be a kind of, I want to say, like a complete defensive effort, because it's not like a no-name defense, right, Ryan? But there's a bunch of just really solid pieces on this defense, and I think they're going to be a solid unit. I don't think they're going to be top 10 in the NFL, but 20 to 13 is the range I see this defense. I don't think this defense is going to be the problem of this team.
The Broncos have been, to me, one of the most divisive teams when it comes to what people think of them. I have seen, you know, USA Today 4 wins. I saw Adam Rank the other day, had him at 10. If that's the ceiling and floor, where you obviously things are allowed to change, we're putting all this in pencil. But what end of the spectrum do you feel like this Broncos team would be more on?
7-9. I mean 7-10.
So actually
6-11.
closer to the ceiling than the floor.
Yeah, I mean, to me, watching Sean Payton. Sean Payton has been an NFL coach for, I believe, 16 years. He hasn't lost less than 7 games in a season, right? Sean will win you some games that you're not supposed to win. So it's hard for me just to sit here and say, hey, the Broncos are going to go 4-13 this year, because if it's not working with Knicks, he's going to put Stidham in. He's going to find ways to still win games. But to me, this entire season, Ryan, it's only one thing matters. Is Bo Nix the guy? Is he your franchise guy? You have to find that out. And that's why also another reason why I think he should start, and he will start, is because you need to find out this year, right off the bat, can Bo Nix win you games, and can Bo Nix be a long-term solution at this quarterback position? Because you've known the last, since 2016, how many different starting quarterbacks the Broncos have had?
A lot.
Yeah, too many, man. I mean, it won't fit all in one jersey. Like, it just keeps going down, down, down.
Right.
It's crazy.
Did you watch any of the football game last night with the new kickoff rule?
A little bit. I think teams are figuring out they're going to be a little vanilla. That's what Sean said today, a little bit vanilla during preseason. They're just going to kind of do the basic things. I don't expect to see anything different or crazy until we get to week 1. He mentioned a little bit maybe practicing some different scenarios with the Packers and make sure that film doesn't get out to other teams. But that was the most interesting thing to me. During the game, I mean, they only played, 3 quarters, and it's all backup. So besides that, I was watching the Olympics.
I call it Olympics side quest. So we're all watching basketball. We're all watching swimming. We're all watching gymnastics to some degree, right? That's why what's your favorite Olympics side quest, the sport off the beaten path that you found yourself kind of locked into?
So I met my fiance playing beach volleyball in New Orleans. She grew up playing volleyball her whole life. Kristen Nuss, who's on the beach volleyball team, went to Cabrini. She's from New Orleans. Not Cabrini. She went to Mount Carmel. She's from New Orleans. And my fiance and her played against each other. And we actually played against Christian and Taryn in New Orleans at Coconut Beach. We lost 21-4. Although I was talking a lot of smack, Ryan. I blocked 2 of their shots, but we lost by 30 points. But I've been watching a lot of beach volleyball just because of them and that connection. They've been doing great. They're 3-0. Also watching women's rugby. That was really cool. Getting that bronze medal. Water polo and a little bit of fencing, just getting sports that never watch, right?
Right. And look, you and I by the way, love that you mentioned fencing, because that's the one for me. I have been so locked into that whole thing. It's been amazing. It's so engrossing. But you and I, to varying degrees, are in the storytelling business, right? We want the best stories.
Absolutely.
That's where the best stories lie, is these other sports. And it's not just content. It's not just for our content purposes. It's because we are like every other viewer and we love hearing these stories as well.
It's human interest.
Right.
It's like the women's rugby team. Neither the men's or women's have ever medaled in rugby. This is an American sport. And then they win in the final seconds. It's like the equivalent of throwing a 95-yard Hail Mary to be like Tulane beats Alabama in a playoff game, 95-yard touchdown. That was the equivalent of the women's rugby team beating Australia, a powerhouse. Like that kind of stuff. And then all the stars that align to that, right? All the stars that come out of that people know that they wouldn't have known any other of these 4 years. It's pretty cool. And just seeing like Simone Biles, breaking all the records. Katie Ledecky. I'm excited for the track and field coming up as well. I'm a Pelicans fan, so I've been watching Jose Alvarado in Puerto Rico.
And
Obviously
tomorrow,
Nikola Jokic.
Grand Theft Alvarado going up
Yes,
against Team
baby.
USA.
Yeah, I just want him to get 20 points because I know they're going to lose by 40. But what's up with Jamal Murray? He's still dealing with injuries, but he's been struggling.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I was going to bring it up later in the show. Let's hash this out now. Maybe you have an idea. My prevailing theory is that the Nuggets have spent so much time turning Jamal Murray into a playmaker to fit with Nikola Jokic, right? That now they got him in that traditional 2-guard role, and Shea and him just don't work together. I mean,
No,
it's the
100%.
most bizarre thing, but I think there is a reason behind it. And even that reason doesn't go far enough because he was a little rough today too.
Yeah, and some players struggle without the basketball.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram last Summer Olympics really struggled. He started and he only got 3 points a game because he didn't have the basketball and he just sat in the corner the whole time. And I'm kind of seeing the same thing from Jamal Murray. He's struggling shooting. He's 1 for 10 from 3. He just needs the basketball to kind of get himself going, get some shots, kind of get in the rhythm. And he's not in the rhythm right now because he doesn't have the ball the whole time. That's just kind of my opinion on it. Also, don't think he's fully healthy. But
yeah, something's
trying to get that max contract, and there's still a debate talking about it. I'm not second guessing just because we know what Jamal is when Jamal's healthy. But still, man.
Yeah, well, I just and it just looked, and I agree with you. I think he's hampered by something. But look, fair is fair. Jamal Murray's hampered by something for his entire NBA career. Like that dude is always dealing with something. I just thought I knew what Nikola Jokic was going to do, right? Because even you saw it back in 2016, before he really emerged. He had an amazing Olympics. I knew what Nikola Jokic would be. I thought this stage would bring out bubble playoff Olympic Jamal. I thought he would get up for this, and it just I think it's health, I think it's role, and I just don't think he's summoning the same juice that he does for these other platforms or stages that he plays on.
I would agree. Do you think Serbia gets silver, bronze?
I don't know. I thought France would be. I just watched France get their doors blown off by Germany, and
really?
I thought that Wemby would take over this tournament.
Yeah.
I think if I look through it through the lens of who gives the U.S. the biggest threat, it's Nikola Jokic playing more minutes. So wouldn't by that be? I'd probably say Serbia would get silver and Canada
because
bronze.
The game was tied in the minutes he played. It was 81-81.
Yeah.
We all saw the stats. It was 29-3 when he was not playing. Also, one last point about this FIFA basketball. I love the rules. Love the rules. Love the physicality.
Yeah.
Love the even the tapping the ball when it hits the rim. I just love the pace of the game, the flow, everything about FIBA basketball.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you. If tomorrow Adam Silver just said we're adopting international rules, I would jump for joy.
It would be better for the game.
I would jump for joy because they don't get as many fouls, but they don't call as many fouls, which I prefer that to more. You get more foul, like you get 6, but they call everything as opposed to, I like that. I love the, what would be called the goaltending, and not for nothing, but I love that Nikola Jokic thrives in this scenario and Joel Embiid is a disaster.
It's terrible. I would agree. I mean, it eliminates a lot of flopping.
Right.
It's it's good, clean basketball, and it's fun.
Yeah,
I would agree with you.
Yeah. Well, for more tales from Broncos camp, beach volleyball breakdowns, check out Corey on KKTV tonight at 10. Yes.
Yeah, 5:30 and 10
5:30.
at 5:30. We're going to be talking about Tim Patrick's return. He talked today for the media for the first time. He's been obviously out the last 2 years. A lot of big receivers. He talked about mentally just coming back and what he does to not think about his injuries or being afraid of injuries. Talking about that at 5:30, and then at 10, we're just kind of breaking down day 9 of training camp, what went on, and what to expect for tomorrow. And obviously, we talk about the Rockies and maybe Britton Doyle having another home run, and Olympics as well.
Day 9 in the books, only 75 more days to go, Corey.
Yeah.
Keep on schlepping up I-25 for us. We appreciate you.
Will do. Thank you for having me.
You bet. That's Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 Sports. Does a great job covering whatever he sets his heart on to cover. So 5:30 and 10 tonight, he let you know what he's going to be discussing. So you get a little sneak peek there. Wide-ranging conversation with Corey. Feel free to jump in on any of those subjects. I'll expand a little bit more when it comes to Jamal Murray, because even though there may be reasons why he looks the way he does for Team Canada, it's still not a great look, as when he returns stateside, the Nuggets are getting ready to hand him a max contract. Talk about that and much more. Just getting going, really, on this Friday edition of Drive Time Sports. Celebrate back to school with Switchbacks FC tomorrow night at Widener Field. Be there at 6 p.m. as a very limited amount of fans will get a special edition Switchbacks hat provided by Phil Long Dealerships. And then after the Switchbacks take on Phoenix Rising, experience a fun back-to-school fireworks display. It all goes down tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at Widener Field. Get your tickets at switchbacksfc.com. Good chat with Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 Sports. I told you at the top of the show, don't count out the U.S. 3x3 teams. And here they come. Haley Van Lith and company have won 3 straight. And today, Canyon Barry was the hero in both games for the men as he hit the game winners in both. And the U.S., the men still have some work to do. Essentially, top 2 are through. Bottom 2 eliminated. Everyone else plays play-in for the tournament. The women seem to be pretty safe. The men, just to be sure, probably need to beat the Netherlands on Sunday, but they could probably still get into the play-in games with a loss, depending on how some other things go. But it's just funny that, and even I just did a Google search, and all the articles are about why are we so bad at 3x3 when we are so dominating 5x5, if you will. And De'Erica Hambry and Haley Van Lith say that it's that kind of talk that has kind of gotten them amped up. They said they're bookmarking tweets that say they shouldn't come back to the United States, which, seriously, like that, you're going to have that take, they shouldn't come back to the United States? Like, come on, people. Sports means more to me than most anything in my life, and I would never say something like that. Some people are just, it's trolling, obviously, but they're fueled by it. They're fueled by that, and they're fueled by the idea that De'Erica Hambry said this, they're Team USA. They don't lose like they've been losing if they're Team USA, and that goes for any sport. But I said this, the women's 3x3 team won a gold medal at the World Championships last year. They're good. What is going on is slightly more surprising on the women's side than the men's side, but the women's side is easily explained. Their whole premise is that they have to qualify together. They've played together for so long. And then Cameron Brink tears her ACL, and now they're scrambling to replace her. And I think there's some of that going on with the men. To be fair, there are a lot of teams that are ahead of them. But Jimmer Fredette has been dealing with that groin injury. They fell to 0-4 as they squandered that lead against Latvia without him. Today looked pretty good, but again, Canyon Barry was the dude today in both games for 3x3. So don't count him out yet, and maybe fire off a few more angry tweets at Haley Van Lith or De'Erica Hambry, because they look like it's helping. So keep it up. And you know what? Now that I say that, that's probably why. Everyone thinks that trolls on social media are trying to cause pain and get into fights. No, they're trying to motivate. Trolls do a better job of motivating athletes than coaches do. The trolls on social media, you think they're mean, you think they have no life, and they're just trying to start stuff. No. They're trying to help America win gold. So next time you get in a fight with somebody on social media, just know that they're trying to bring the best out of you. And you should thank them. Or block them. Either way. Either way works. So, yeah, men have more of a must win, I would say, coming up on Sunday, and the women are in a good spot at 3-3 now. At the top, still work to do there, but when you start 0-3 and 0-4 respectively, it becomes March Madness. It becomes survive and advance. Right? And then you can regroup later. So there's the latest with that. What else today? We do have a Westwood One Olympic update coming up here in a few minutes. I don't want to steal too much of Westwood One's thunder here, but a tough way for U.S. men's soccer. I had a chance to make a bit of history today, and they were trounced by Morocco. It's almost setting aside 3x3. Yesterday was like this banner day for Team USA, just stacking up gold medals, and it was Ledecky becoming the most decorated American female Olympian ever, and Simone Biles getting back on top of the podium in the all-around, and just a great day. And today has been more about the U.S. men's soccer team getting trounced by Morocco, and then a developing story this afternoon, Caleb Dressel, who won 5 medals in Tokyo, already wasn't going to defend in one event, and now 2 more individual events. He will not defend his gold medal. He won't have a medal of any kind. Today he placed 6th in, I believe, the 50, and then he failed to advance out of his heat in another event. So it goes like that sometimes, right at the Olympics. But today's been a little bit more about disappointment when it comes to Team USA, save for the 3x3 team and some of the early track and field stuff. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, we'll stick with the Olympics. We'll even stick with basketball. Steve Kerr, while Team USA 3x3 may be listening to the noise and using it, Steve Kerr's trying to block it out. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. Drive Time Sports on this Friday. Ryan Kaufman with you. A reminder, you can watch the show on a daily basis. Granted that you follow us on one of our many social media platforms that we exist on: Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. As long as you do that little @ XTRA Sports 1300, you will be able to find us on any one of those platforms, and you can watch the show and interact with the show simultaneously. If you send something in while watching the broadcast, I can see it. Put it on the screen. And technology in sports, generally, I'm opposed. But in the rest of my life, I'm borderline addicted to it. 719-247-1313. If you're not watching and want to interact via phone or text, you could use that number. So tomorrow, Team USA has a chance to finish group play unbeaten. And if they are able to beat Grand Theft Alvarado, is Carlos Arroyo still on Puerto Rico? Probably not. As long as they take care of business in every facet, they should be the number one seed going into the quarterfinals and will finish perfect in the group stage. But we don't really care about that, do we? Not yet, anyway. We're talking about rotations, benchings, DNPs. And we all eagerly await who gets that dreaded DNP tomorrow. Steve Kerr being a little defiant about the whole thing. When talking about his rotations, quote, "Just coaching basketball. It's pretty simple for us, regardless of the noise." Now, he mentions that you can't have the 5 leading scorers from the NBA on. So he says, I can't play essentially Embiid, LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, and Jason Tatum, or something like that. I don't know. Go look who the leading scorers in the NBA this year were. But he's like, I got to think about the matchups, right? And that's been his go-to. The matchups. They got to fit together. That's not the issue here. That's not the issue here. In fact, I wish he would take his own advice or live by that mantra a little bit more when it comes to Joel Embiid. Because it seems like the only reason that Joel Embiid is in the rotation is because of what he is in the NBA. I can't find another reason. So I wish that he would take it a step further and apply that to Joel Embiid, because apparently he's putting him right back in the starting 5 tomorrow. The point with Jason Tatum and to Joel Embiid to a far lesser extent, because at least Jason Tatum seems like he fits with this team. It's Team USA is not an all-star team. And I think Steve Kerr, that kind of aligns with what Steve Kerr's talking about. This isn't an all-star team. But the way I'm taking it is saying it's not an all-star team, as in it doesn't get thrown together last minute based on fan vote, and it's just for that year. Right? All-star teams are standalone. Could be completely different the next year. Team USA, you have to look at more like an NBA franchise. Okay, even though they only come together every 4 years on the biggest of stages, but also they have these other lesser international events that they go to. But it feels like an all-star team, but it's really not. That's why Grant Hill is in charge. He's supposed to look at it long term, and his coaching staff is supposed to look at the long term. One of the issues with benching Jason Tatum and making sure that Steph, LeBron, KD, that they get everything they want, whatever role they want, as many minutes as they want, is that in LA in 4 years, is Steph Curry going to be on this team? Is LeBron James going to be on the LeBron James even going to be in the league? You have, and this is why it gets complicated. It's more complicated to be the head coach of Team USA than it is the Eastern Conference All-Stars. You do have to have a longer-term vision. And Jason Tatum was one of your most dependable players in Tokyo. And he's been with you for longer than Steph Curry, right? Jason Tatum was just in the last Olympics, and they could rely on him, and he delivered. And in 4 years, Jason Tatum might be the face of this team, right? He might be its biggest star, him or Anthony Edwards. And this guy's talking about how he's received all these accolades, and then he goes to Team USA and he gets benched, and how humbling, aka embarrassing, that is. Now, Jason Tatum will say the right thing and say he doesn't hold any grudges. But there's a decent chance that through this experience, that maybe Jason Tatum doesn't agree to play for him in 4 years. I think one of his teammates, Jaylen Brown, is probably a foregone conclusion that if asked, he would not play in 4 years. The idea of Team USA, built the way they are with Grant Hill at the top, is to take this from one 4-year cycle to the next. Who's up and coming? Who do we develop? Who do we give some time to so we can rely on them moving forward? Right? This is what that team right before the Redeem team brought out, is that we don't run our organization like these other countries do. And we need to start having that mentality. Chemistry, cohesion, fits, roles, development. And I'm not saying those things were completely ignored by Team USA, but just they had to kick those kind of things into overdrive and think about those things more. Think about it this way. If Team USA is maybe a little bit more towards an NBA franchise on the spectrum as opposed to the Eastern or Western Conference All-Stars. Easy example would be this year's Denver Nuggets, right? And you think of Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton. Think of them as the Team USA version of Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther. They are not going to be the most important players for you to win now. And I understand that winning now is the number one goal. But you still need to have an eye on the future and make sure that these guys are getting acclimated to the international game, that are getting minutes, that feel like, okay, it's going to be my team at some point. Take that pride, want to do it, right? In the past, it's been a little bit of an issue trying to get the NBA's best players to agree to play for Team USA. Look at the Denver Nuggets. The plan was, yes, it's Jokic and it's Murray and it's Gordon and it's Porter. But also it's finding a way to bring those other guys along. So when the time comes, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signing with the Orlando Magic, that a Christian Brown is ready to step up into that role. And then somebody is ready to step up into his role. This is the ideal situation. Once LeBron, Steph, and KD, probably by LA, although it being in LA, they may want to play. But they're going to be diminished players by then. And you're going to need, as the European countries and stuff continue, as Canada continues, you're going to need this pipeline of players from one Olympics to the next. Maybe the issue here is that this team is too star-studded. Maybe that's the issue. Because if the other day, Derek White, as good as he was, is the one on the bench and getting the DNP, nobody says anything. Do you know the players in Tokyo, when U.S. won gold, same result, the players that didn't get regular minutes? Jeremy Grant, JaVale McGee, Keldon Johnson. Right? They were guys, I don't want to say they're expendable or disposable, but they were guys that you could give a DNP to, and they wouldn't have, and we could call it what it is, the ego. We all have an ego. Right? And so part of our ego may be earned, much of it maybe isn't, but we all have ego. And maybe the problem with Team USA is that because LeBron and Steph decided they would play, it's kind of thrown things a little bit out of whack. Because now you have all these other stars, the emerging stars, that expect to play, like Embiid and Tatum. Maybe that's what the issue is. I mean, could you even imagine? Kawhi Leonard was supposed to be on this team. It would be even worse if Kawhi was on this team as opposed to Derek White. Yes, it's about winning now. And what Steve Kerr is doing is leading to the number one goal. But there are other goals beneath that. And when you're handing out these DNPs to very prideful NBA stars who, it's not like if Jokic skipped for, remember when Nikola Jokic didn't go to the Olympics? There were like newspaper articles calling him a traitor. If Luka doesn't play for Slovenia, if Giannis doesn't play for Greece, they get destroyed in their countries. We don't do that. Maybe it's a topic for a day, or it's just this general, I wish more of the NBA stars would want to play for Team USA. But we care more about the NBA than we do the Olympics. So if some of these athletes, like a Jason Tatum, comes away from the Olympics like, man, I was there in Tokyo. I helped us win a gold. I accomplished all I've accomplished since in the NBA. And now I'm going to take time to go play in the Olympics again. And then I'm going to get clowned on social media. And I'm going to have to sit there in my warm-ups knowing I'm not going to get in the game. I'm not going to get that criticized in 4 years if I don't play. So I wonder what Grant Hill thinks of all of this. You know, Grant Hill's been kind of fighting for his life when it comes to this whole Jaylen Brown, Derek White thing. But is Grant Hill the Calvin Booth to Steve Kerr's Michael Malone? That's the question I'm asking. Do we have a coach that maybe doesn't have the bigger picture view as much as the guy putting together the team would like to? Again, it's not destroying Team USA, but there are consequences. There's a trade-off. There's real impact potentially to some of these decisions by Steve Kerr. And maybe if they loaded up on more, maybe told Steph Curry, you can't come, sorry. We've gotten our team. That opens up a spot for one of these guys that have been more a part of Team USA over the years. So we'll see what Steve Kerr decides to do. Game against Puerto Rico tomorrow. The teams that are through, by the way, all of our best scenarios are still alive. Canada's through with their win today. France is through. So it's Canada, Australia, Germany, France, Brazil, and the United States. The situation for tomorrow is thus. If Serbia wins, and they win by more than 3, I think it's 3, maybe even it's 3 or more. How's this for? You thought it was mind-numbing trying to do the math to figure out if your team's going to cover the spread. If Serbia wins by 3 or more, Greece and Giannis, who won today, are the last team in, and South Sudan, one of the best stories of the Olympics so far, are out. If South Sudan loses by 2 or less or wins against Serbia, the last 2 teams will be Serbia and South Sudan, and Giannis in Greece will be on the way home. I would expect Canada and the United States to be on opposite sides. And it kind of, if Serbia really takes care of business tomorrow, by what I've been able to surmise and take it for what it's worth, Serbia, U.S. in the semis with USA, Canada potentially in the gold medal. The story, the picture will crystallize a little bit better tomorrow, but it's mind-numbing, but that's kind of the gist that I get. But first things first, U.S., who's going to get a DNP? And it won't affect the U.S. winning because they'll boat race Puerto Rico, and then it's on to the quarterfinals. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, Mark Moses, host of the Mark Moses Show, joins me to talk about all of them football teams in the state of Florida. Buccaneers, Dolphins, Jags, and the Golden Knights, and his beloved Bears. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Very excited to chat with my next guest. He is the host of the wildly popular Mark Moses Show, which you can, if you become such a fan of his, can listen to basically leading up to this show. It's on Sports Radio 1560 out there in Florida. He is Mark Moses, and he joins me now. Mark, how are you, buddy? I feel like I haven't spoken to you in like 2 days.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I appreciate coming on my show earlier in the week because when that story broke where the Raiders were making fun of Patrick Mahomes, I said there's only one man to call, and that's the guy with the red hair, Ryan Kaufman. So thank you for coming on with me earlier in the week.
It was my honor and pleasure, and I hope that your listeners came away learning something. That's what I really set out to do every time I either host a radio show or appear on one. I just, want someone to learn something, and I hope your listeners did.
They did. Just please, all I ask is, can we not talk Olympics? Is that okay? I've tried for 2 days to turn them into topics, and then I just feel like, let's just go back to football, the hell with it. Am I wrong in saying this, Ryan? 'Cause that's how I'm feeling right now.
Well, you are live in Olympic City, USA, so I would say that's probably – now, that's not why I brought you on, but that's probably not the right take in this city because we have USA basketball is like 2 miles down the road from me. I think USA cycling is like a block from here, so we're right in the thick of it.
Well, okay, Simone Biles, she's the GOAT. She's awesome, all right? You can't go 20 minutes on Simone Biles on a radio show. You're right, she's the GOAT. She's awesome. She kicked butt. Okay, let's move on. All right, we'll see how we're doing in track and field. All right, let's move on. Basketball. Will they win by 20 or will they win by 10?
No, the DMPs, Mark. We're talking about the DMPs. Will it be Tatum or Embiid or Halliburton? I think I did like 10 minutes on women's foil the other day. I mean, if you need an Olympic correspondent, you have my number. But okay. But look, you're right. I mean, especially now with the Hall of Fame game, it's like, okay, we're going to kind of transition over as the Olympics hit their second week and we get into the preseason. Yeah, it's NFL time.
I'll just say this about basketball.
Yeah.
You saw this the other day, and this is what I've been yelling about. You can't rely so much on Steph Curry, LeBron, and Kevin Durant. Those guys are once in a generation first ballot Hall of Famers, and LeBron is the case. He's, top 2 player of all time. But those younger guys, and we saw this in the last win against South Sudan, these other guys like Tatum, Embiid, Edwards, these next generation of guys who are in their prime, they need to step up and grab the bull by horns because they're supposed to be the leading the way, not 39-year-old LeBron James. That's what we kind of saw where all 10 guys scored in that last game, and it needs to be more of a balanced attack. It can't just be LeBron and Steph. That's ridiculous. Those guys are they're still top 10 players, but they're not at the height of their powers. It's not 2016 anymore. That's what I've noticed from the basketball team.
Yeah, and I think it's chicken or the egg because I just, before I brought you on, was talking about how Team USA is more like an NBA franchise than people might think. This isn't supposed to be the Western Conference All-Star team of 2024. Yeah. So the idea is you have to have an eye on the future. And the problem with these DMPs are Steve Kerr is minimizing the roles of the guys that are supposed to lead us in LA and for years to come. But you're right. Once they have the opportunity, they got to take advantage. And that would be kind of the slide on Jason Tatum. He takes a DMP and then he's not super great the next time out. But once it gets to the medal round, it's going to be just about winning. It doesn't matter what the rotation is. It's now when we know that they're going to win. So we're nitpicking.
The only thing I'll say, the only team that frightens me is Germany. And I know that USA beat them in the preliminary round, but I saw that Franz Wagner dunk today where he dunked on 5 French guys. They're the defending FIBA champions. I think they're going to give a run at the Americans. Like this, I don't think this is so like, oh, we got the gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they will, but I wouldn't put money on it. I don't think this thing's over yet, Ryan.
No, and I think more minutes for Nikola Jokic and a potential matchup for Serbia could give them some fits. I'm with you, and I just watched Germany make light work of Wemby and France. So this thing's going to get good, and this thing's going to get more competitive, and that's when we care a little bit less about guys 8, 9, 10 on the U.S. bench, but we care immensely right now. I didn't want to bring you on to talk Olympics, by the way. Mark Moses, host of the Mark Moses Show on Sports Radio 1560, my guest. I know what your answer is going to be because I saw your tweet after I asked you to be on the show. You and I are simpatico on this subject. Fire away on the new kickoff.
I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know. I felt like, was that some play you try in OTAs? It looked like some weird modified Oklahoma drill, or I don't know what the hell
it looked. You know what it looked like? And I started my show with this. It looked like the XFL came up with it. That's what it looks like, which they did.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I give credit to the XFL. Remember, there were a lot of innovations from that league that were implemented, including, the camera that swings over the field came from the XFL. It was so embarrassing from the standpoint, the greatest kick returner, special teams player of all time, Devin Hester, is on the sidelines, who's going in the NFL, mostly as a special teams returner.
Yeah.
And you literally just neutered the kick return. It was so ugly and terrible looking. I could see it where there's so much backlash that by the opener with Kansas City, they're like, all right, we're just going to go back to the regular kickoff. That's what I can see happening. It reminds me of, remember in the NBA that one year in the 2000s when they tried that other basketball and then the players complained so much that they went back to the normal ball? That was awful. I'm like, people were like, oh no, it's great. Why is it great? Why? Because they went 5 yards?
It gained 1 yard. The first one last night, it gained 1 additional yard than if the old rules would have been in place and they would just kicked it out of the back of the end zone.
So if you're, Pee-wee, high school, and college are going to do normal kickoffs like we've done for 100 years, and then you get to the NFL like, sorry, bro, if you're good at that, you're out. What? Well, then what? Then the punt return goes away? See, I'm officially an old man. Get off my lawn because I just want to watch football. I don't know what that was, but that was garbage last night.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not about this either. I love Devin Hester, and Dante Hall, was obviously phenomenal for I love, and Devin Hester was the one guy in this Hall of Fame class that I pounded the desk for. I think Devin Hester absolutely should be immortalized in Canton for what he did at that position. But I'm kind of okay if every kickoff from now until my dying days goes out of the back of the end zone. I'm not going to miss it.
I want all your Bronco fans who are listening to know this. I was there in 2007 at Soldier Field when Devin Hester had the kick return and the punt return for a touchdown to beat the Broncos. That stadium was shaking when he scored. I've never experienced that in my life at a football game. You couldn't believe it. And I always remember the CBS announcers screaming, "Why are you kicking him the ball?" It was one of the most magical things I've ever seen. And he should have been first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I mean, he was incredible. And we'll never see that again. And so thank you, Roger Goodell, for destroying that.
But he knows he can throw whatever garbage into his sport, and we'll still be locked in every Sunday, no matter what. Mark Moses, my guest. Let me ask you about your Bears. First of all, quarterback controversy. Brett Rippon over Caleb Williams.
No.
Okay.
No, this is what I'll tell you is okay. So this started that backup Tyson Bagent from like Division II.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I've said this to you before. So last year, Fields got injured. With what else is new? And they put in Bagent, and you notice the offense looked quicker and more efficient. And they were getting the ball down the field more. And it was very interesting. And then Fields came back in. And I like Fields. I've told you this for 3 years. I like Fields. I think he's going to do well with Pittsburgh. I do. But it just showed you with Bagent, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this offense can be good. And then you saw some of the mechanics last night with Rippon, even third stringer. He probably won't play this year. But this offense can be good. So I'm getting very, very excited. And I know Caleb Williams is going to make mistakes because all rookies do. But, like, the offensive weapons they have, like, I keep forgetting they have Keenan Allen. And then now we have the number one highest paid wide receiver who deserved every penny in DJ Moore. And then you get Roma Dunze. Thank you, Atlanta, for your stupidity. Like, yeah, I'm really excited for this offense this year, and I think they can compete in the NFC North.
Mark Moses, my guest. You talked about DJ Moore's new contract, couple of new contracts for quarterbacks. Better investment, Trevor Lawrence or Tua?
Oh, honestly, this is like the $50,000 question. I know the Tua one is more team friendly if you think about it, but I told you that stat earlier in the week. It blows my mind that Tua is going to make $50 million next year, and Dan Marino in his whole career made $50 combined million with the Dolphins. Just think about that. I know this is crazy. Maybe Tua is the better contract because it's shorter. And Trevor Lawrence, okay, he did make the playoffs 2 years ago, and he won a playoff game against this awful Chargers team who choked with Herbert. I kind of like, okay, if we're just going regular season, who's going to put up stats? I think Tua's a better regular season quarterback. I really do. Lawrence, this is a big year for him. I know the Jaguars gave him the contract, but he really, like, there is a lot of pressure on him to deliver now. And you can't be like, oh, well, you had Urban Meyer, there's this, and, oh, well, you didn't have wide receivers, and there's, it came out after the year, he was very banged up, but there's all the pressure in the world. Trevor Lawrence got that money. He's the highest paid. He has to produce this year. So right now, I think Tua maybe is the better contract from that standpoint.
You're going to be going to Dolphins camp tomorrow. Do you expect to get a palpable feeling of it's got to be this year for Miami?
Yes. And you can't judge. I talk about this with other Dolphins guys where it's like, remember, this better than anyone. They put up 70 points on the Broncos. And after that game, everyone here in Florida is thinking like, you know what? Maybe this is a Super Bowl contender. And they were red hot to start the year. And you're like, okay, this is it. And Tyreek Hill could be an MVP candidate as well. And then you just saw it where teams like Kansas City, especially that game in Germany and in the playoff game, they make adjustments and they pound Miami's offense from the standpoint of, you're not going to go quick on us. You're not going to do these little, 1-2 step, throw the ball. You got to come with other angles. That's why I think with the Dolphins, this is kind of this, all right, what adjustments are you going to make where it's not just a one-trick pony? Can you run the ball better? Can you hit your tight end? They've got to, like, mix it up a little. You can't just keep going with this, 1, 2, 3, throw it to Tyreek Hill, throw it to Jalen Waddle. They've got to switch it up a little, or they are going to get knocked out in the playoffs in round one again.
Do you think they win the East?
Oh, that is tough. I don't know if I'd put money on that. Don't you feel like you got to see Aaron Rodgers play a game or two and see how the Jets do? I mean, and then what does Buffalo do where, they lost, Gabe Davis and their number one guy who's probably still yelling at him to get him the ball. Yeah, Stephon Diggs. So it's like, You know what? I would remember the Dolphins did not win the division last year. Buffalo did because they won in Miami in the final game of the season. Right now, all right, I would take Miami, but I'm not putting money on it right now. I'm still hesitant. How about you, Ryan?
I'm leaning yes, but I don't think that Brandon Beane is a bad general manager. And I feel like I'm not counting out Buffalo. I am counting out New York. And if Aaron Rodgers is back to what he was a couple of years ago, then I guess I'll eat my hat. But if not Miami, I still think it's Buffalo. I'm not ready to completely count out Buffalo, but I would probably lean Miami right now.
I think the X factor for Buffalo's offense is in the second round they took Coleman, the big wide receiver from Florida State, and they're banking on him to pick up the slack for the wide receivers they lost. They have to go younger. There's another team where they've had a lot of success in the regular season. They get to the playoffs, and then they can't get through Cincinnati. They can't get through Kansas City. There's this feeling, Buffalo's so great, and they are a good team, but they also need to break through. And how many more years is the window going to be open for them where they're going to get these deep playoff runs? So it's interesting with Buffalo as well when you look at this division.
I think that feeling that you just intimated is felt by like a half a dozen teams, like Baltimore, Buffalo, Miami, San Francisco can feel that way with this last dance. And I don't know, Brandon Ayuk wasn't at practice today. People in Pittsburgh are like throwing a parade and already printing up the jerseys. I haven't seen anything about, people are looking at charter jet flights and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, my gosh, how many teams in the NFL, I don't know, Jacksonville, I guess we were just talking about them. How many teams in this league where if they don't do what they're expected, there will be this feeling of it's never going to happen?
That's a great question. I mean, it depends. Like, all right, if you're Cleveland, what is your thoughts? Like, are we stuck with Deshaun Watson? Like, can he play? Like, they've never even been to the Super Bowl. What if you're Detroit? Like, was your window last year? Because I kind of feel like the NFC North, I know this might be crazy to say, it might be the best division where Detroit will be good. Maybe Jordan Love's going to do an encore. Green Bay will be good. Are my Bears going to be a wild card team? What's Minnesota going to do? I see what you're coming from, where all these teams have high expectations. And I always say this, hey, in August, it's fantasy. It's, hey, we got big chances. And then we get to September and October, and it turns into reality. Oh, no, we suck again, like Rob Schneider says in The Water Boy. That's how I look at it.
Or it's LA today where Justin Herbert's now in a walking boot.
I don't understand him. Is he good or is he not good? I never understand his career so far. He reminds me of Trevor Lawrence, where when you see him in person, the eye test is like, yeah, this guy's going to be awesome, like Dan Marino. And then it doesn't translate to the field. I just don't get Herbert.
Yeah, and he's going to be, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. Schefter says this is a thing that's going to, I remember when Tim Duncan had plantar fascia, like it bothers you the entire year. So crazy stuff for LA. As officially today, I am in Big 12 country and you are in Big 12 country, and we're only separated by, I don't know, 3/4 of the United States. Tell me about UCF. Where are they at in the pecking order? How high are their hopes? I think this conference is going to be absolutely nutty. I think this thing is going to be off the rails in the best way possible. But where does UCF fit into all of this?
All right, it's a long answer. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can from the standpoint of they always wanted to be a Power 5 school. And they really tried hard for years to get in one. And then they finally got their opportunity, and they jumped ship to the Big 12. And that was announced 2 years ago. And they went through their first season last year, which was great. And in hindsight, you look at how there's not even a Pac-12 anymore. So it was the right move to jump ship. And the American, they were, them and Cincinnati, top two teams. Houston, they all jumped ship to the Big 12. Move, revenue-wise, all that stuff. It was. Last year was very difficult from the standpoint, you're taking on all these new teams. So you didn't know how you were going to fare against them. Like they had to go to Kansas State and Kansas, and, they took on Oklahoma State, and, and they got to a bowl game. That was literally the expectation last year. Just get to a bowl game, and they did. Now with Gus on, now there's to be higher. It's now teams. Now there's more teams they've never faced before, including a lot around you, where Colorado and Arizona, and I'm just like, wait a minute, we're an East Coast school. Why are we taking on all these West Coast schools? What is this exactly? Like, it's very confusing to me. But I'll tell you this: everyone's very excited for Colorado and Deion Sanders to come. The final Saturday, I think, in September.
Is that game already sold out?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens there. And I know Sanders, the quarterback at Big 12 Media Days, already said, what was his comment, Ryan, where he's like, everyone who plays this, it's like their Super Bowl.
That's exactly
comment
what
like
said.
that. Oh, I can't wait. So the question is, who are the top teams? Who's the top dog? Because remember, Texas, Oklahoma, they're gone. Is it Utah? Maybe. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I think it is Utah. I think if we're essentially merging part of the Pac-12 with the Big 12, I will tell you that Utah, given what they've been in the Pac-12, is the best team in the new Big 12. I look at them, and then from the people that you had to go up against last year, I would put Oklahoma State in that conversation, and then maybe the two Kansas schools. That's kind of where I have capped CU is probably like fifth in the Big 12, but I think Utah is going to prove in relatively short order as this season goes on that they're the class of the Big 12. It's who's going to be meeting them in the championship game.
My biggest concern for someone in the Big 12 is the 12-team playoff where, as you know, I cover the SEC as well. What is it? The 4 top conference champions are getting a bye. Then we'll see who gets in after that. But, if you're, what would you say, 9 through 12, those spots? I'm telling you, if you're an SEC school and you go 9-3 and you have the tougher schedule, you're probably going to get in over, let's say you're the third best team in the Big 12. That's why, this is like soccer. If you're a Big 12 team, you better be putting up a lot of points and play a sexy offense. You got to show those voters, hey, I'm exciting and you should put me in the playoff. That's why it's going to be fascinating. Because, again, let's say you're Ole Miss, who's constantly going, 10-2? They're probably going to get into the playoff now. Yeah. And then you got Notre Dame they're going to want to put in. And let's say Bama, they're the third best team. They're going to get in. So it's going to be fascinating to see.
And you also have to think about this, too. If this conference is going to be as crazy as we think it is, they're not going to be very good records coming out of the Big 12.
No.
I would say maybe the team that plays what I think will be Utah in the conference championship game may get in, but I'm saying maybe. The Big 12 might get a bid, and that's it. I think there's a realistic possibility because to your point, I think they're going to stack this field with as many SEC teams. Now the floodgates are open. Now they don't even have to feel bad about doing to somebody what they did to FSU because they're like, look, there's 12, Florida State would have been in. Now they can just do what they've always wanted to do and take all of these SEC teams and just plop them in with a few automatic bids, or share them probably with the Big Ten is more like it.
I have a good friend, Kevin Noon. You got to get him on sometime. He covers the Buckeyes in Columbus, and he made this point for the Big Ten. He goes, he took it a step further. He feels like the committee, they'll want to make sure those playoff games are in nice weathers as well. From the standpoint, you probably won't have Wisconsin hosting a game in December. No, let's let LSU host the game. At least it'll be, in the 80s there in December. I could see that happening as well. I mean, look, again, they're going to want to put Notre Dame in. They love Notre Dame. They want to put them in. Then if Bama just shows up and just plays good football, and if Georgia just shows up, they're going to get in, right? So to your point, how many options are even open? How many spots are there realistically? So I'm with you. That Big 12 title game is going to be fascinating to see.
And we do have football. Now, football is officially back with that nonsense kickoff and the game suspended due to lightning. But it's football, dang it, and we'll take it any day of the week. Mark Moses, thanks for jumping on, my friend. Have a great weekend. Say hi to Mike McDaniel for me.
Will, and hey, good luck on the football season, and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, sounds good, buddy. Thanks. Mark Moses of Mark Moses Show fame, Sports Radio 1560, down there right in the middle of the People's Republic of Florida. 719-247-1313. Lot of ground covered there with Mark. Be interested to get your thoughts on it. We're going to be tied up against the hour, but still a whole nother hour here on Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this very fine Friday afternoon / evening. 5 o'clock is always kind of don't know what quite to call it. I think it's the evening, even though it's still very much light out. Ryan Kaufman with you, and appreciate you tuning in, whether it is on your radio, online, or through the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. We're going to open things up via the text and phone line. Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 Sports. Join me in hour number 1. Mark Moses from Sports Radio 1560 in Florida. Join me in the last couple of hours. Now it'll be you and me. I mean, it's always you and me, but as far as the back and forth, 719-247-1313. If you want to jump aboard, maybe these stories that I'm about to discuss may spur some interest. We call them What's Driving the Show. All right, here is story number 1.
We're going to want to cover in return. We're not going to want to, kick touchbacks. So that will be, I think the first. I think the preseason will be important, but the first quarter poll of the season is going to be real important.
That's Broncos head coach Sean Payton talking about the new kickoff rule that was debuted last night in the Hall of Fame game. And the first time we saw it, it got the Bears 1 whole yard more than if it just would have been the old rules and they kicked it out of the back of the end zone. So not a great first impression, at least from my standpoint. Maybe you disagree with that. It will give us some memorable moments. I'm sure it will. But I don't need it. I don't need this kickoff rule. I wasn't pining for more kickoff returns. I wasn't. And I remember a lot. Mark Moses was on last hour, talked about Devin Hester with a kick return for a touchdown against the Broncos. I grew up watching Tamarick Vanover and Dante Hall for Kansas City. Yeah, they're exciting. They're great moments, but they're going to be few and far between. And in the meantime, we are left with the most awkward-looking thing I have ever seen on a football field. You have the kicker way back all by himself, and they got to block out this landing zone with like they do with the first down line. Now they got to do. I just don't need it. I don't need it. It looks like the XFL came up with it, and that is not a compliment. It's not. Adopting something from a lesser form of football is not an attaboy. I don't need it. It provided nothing to my viewing experience last night. And I got to tell you, I don't mind one more dead time during a football game. We're doing the 2 screens. Most of us are on social media or checking out another game. I want those tune out opportunities. I want them. But the NFL doesn't. And that's why this is here. This is not really going to move the needle in making the NFL better. I just don't believe it. But this isn't about making the NFL better, is it? It's just taking away those tune-out opportunities. One more tune-out opportunity, or however many tune-out opportunities end up coming up over the course of the game, because You just expected the ball to be kicked out of the back of the end zone. That's why they're doing this. Stay engaged. Stay watching. Here's a message from our sponsor. That's why we're doing it. Well, that's why the NFL does everything, and I understand that. But the question is what they're implementing so you keep your eyeballs on the game and therefore your eyeballs on their advertisers going to make the viewing experience better? And I just don't see it, and it's going to take a lot of getting used to. And I don't think I'll ever change my mind. I'll learn to accept it as I learn to accept all things that these leagues institute that I don't like initially. It's not enough to not watch football. I mean, I don't want to be too much of an alarmist in that regard. But I just don't need it. Maybe if Sean Payton is right, there's the opportunity. It's not going to be during the preseason, at least. If I'm going to change my mind, it would be based on what Sean Payton just said and what it looks like after the first 4 weeks of the season. Didn't do anything for me. Story number 2 today from the Paris Games, a little bit of basketball. First, don't count out 3x3. Haley Van Lith and company, Canyon Barry and company, staying alive one day after they were basically ripped apart on social media and through numerous media outlets, all asking the same question: how are we this bad at a sport that we dominate when there's 5 players on the court? And Haley Van Lith and De'Erica Hambry, the members of the women's 3-on-3 team, are like, yeah, we saw all that. It fueled us. So Team USA on the women's side is sitting in a pretty good spot. They will be through to the next round. It will be a play-in. So they'll have to win again in order to advance, but that's what stage it's going to be anyway. Everything from here on out is going to be single elimination. For the men, they probably still need to beat the Netherlands on Sunday. But if Canyon Barry is as clutch as he was today, then we'll be talking about both teams come Monday staying alive in the 3x3, an unthinkable proposition just 24 hours ago. Canyon Barry, Cheyenne Mountain High School grad, hitting both game winners today for Team USA as they stay alive. And then in the 5-on-5 variety, no Team USA, they play tomorrow. No Nikola Jokic, he plays tomorrow. But you had Jamal Murray today. And Canada's got its own rotation, who's on the floor type conundrum going on. Because the last thing that Jamal Murray did in today's win for Canada was assist on a 3-point shot with 7 minutes to go, and then he wasn't heard from again. Why? Because he was on the bench. And Kevin Durant said this as it pertained to all the questions about Steve Kerr's rotations. Kevin Durant said, it's not about starting, it's about finishing the game. And that's something we've had to train ourselves to be like, yeah, being a starter, you get your name announced and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the true measure of whether you are being counted on to win games is if you're out there at the most crucial moments. And for Canada, they were locked in a dead heat today. Back and forth they went down the stretch with Jamal Murray on the bench. It is about at the level of the Jason Tatum thing. Because when Jamal Murray arrives back in North America, whether he's coming to Colorado or going to Toronto or Kitchener, the Nuggets are going to sign him to a max extension. This is a guy that's about to be one of the highest paid players in the National Basketball Association and on his national team. He's on the bench in the most crucial moments in the game. And you don't fault Canada's coach. 2 of 5, 6 assists, 3 turnovers in 17 minutes. For the tournament, Jamal Murray is averaging less than 6 points, shooting 1 of 3 from the field on average, 33%, and he's 1 of 10 from three-point range. I thought, look, it doesn't change anything in terms of the Nuggets extension. They have to pay him. Okay. I have other questions about Jamal Murray that have nothing to do with Team Canada. But I acknowledge that this was a foregone conclusion. He's going to get his max extension. And I'm okay with that because I know what Jamal Murray with Nikola Jokic is. But I really thought that this was going to be a stage to bring out the best in Jamal Murray. And I know there are reasons it doesn't look like he's fully healthy, but he's never healthy. Let's be honest. That's my concern with giving Jamal Murray the max extension. He's hurt as much as he's healthy. I already had that concern. He doesn't fit with SGA playing off the ball. So there are reasons leading to Jamal Murray having the Olympics he's had so far. But that really doesn't make it any less surprising, given that the one thing that Jamal Murray is known for above all else, even to his credit, above how much of an injury risk he is, biggest stage, he's at his best. And he hasn't even been close with the chance to help lead his team to a gold medal. But really, even with the reasons that I know and can identify, still would think we would get more out of Jamal Murray. We've seen him tough through it. We just saw him in the playoffs. Tough through injury against the Lakers and put up brilliant performances. Haven't seen that yet. Not even close for Team Canada. But he will get more opportunities because Canada is through to the quarterfinals. USA through to the quarterfinals. Serbia, barring a catastrophic collapse tomorrow against South Sudan, will be through. So I would say all the potential scenarios that you kind of wanted going in, you know, maybe Jamal Murray versus Nikola Jokic versus Team USA, Jamal Murray versus Team USA, Canada, USA. Those are all still very much on the table. And then we'll just see, depending on what Serbia does tomorrow against South Sudan, how it will all line up. And story number 3 today is back in the NFL, where a team that most everybody wrote in pen as the best AFC West team, not named the Kansas City Chiefs, may be less than a lock. Justin Herbert, diagnosed with plantar, is it a plantar fascia and he's suffering from plantar fasciitis? Where are my orthopedics at? My orthopedic surgeons, can you shed light on that? But he's dealing with this. He's now in a walking boot, which is not a sight that you want to see for anybody, even if it's in August. And Adam Schefter was on ESPN today saying, like, look, he may be ready for week 1, but this thing's not going away. And I remember a year with Tim Duncan where it was actually the first time I had ever heard of this malady. And it nags, and it could be re-aggravated routinely and over again. And Justin Herbert's going to be dealing with this the entirety of a huge season for the LA Chargers. They finally got it right. They finally, after we had screamed and begged and pleaded for them to let Brandon Staley go, they did. And they replaced him with about the best guy they possibly could in Jim Harbaugh. Finally, they get it right. Finally, it's time for Justin Herbert to cook and the LA Chargers to be the team that they're supposed to be. And now Justin Herbert's dealing with this and will continue to deal with this. You saw what the Chargers are. The Broncos had the good fortune of seeing the Chargers last year without Justin Herbert. There were already questions about who Justin Herbert was going to throw the football to. And now if this thing acts up, if this thing bothers him, and if this team keeps him out, now you have a backup QB in LA throwing to not Mike Williams and not Keenan Allen and not Austin Eckler. This team may need to morph into Michigan. I know they're going to want to run the football, but they may have to treat Justin Herbert like J.J. McCarthy. It's like, nope, don't worry about it. We're just going to pound the rock. That's not going to get L.A. to where they want to go. They need Justin Herbert. So it's not catastrophic, but for a franchise with the history of the LA Chargers, this is awful. And this is another example of chargering. Best laid plans. It's supposed to be this. They have this within their reach, right? To become one of the elite teams in the AFC, to be one of the biggest threats to Patrick Mahomes. And at the last second, it's taken away from them. Tough life. But Chargers say he'll be ready for week 1, which is possible. But that doesn't mean he's healed from this thing. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. I can already see the text flooding in when it comes to the kickoff rule. And not surprisingly, it seems like I am on the other side of the argument. We'll get to that next. From the Chief Vapor Traffic Center, here's an extra So today, officially, the University of Colorado became a member of the Big 12. And if you recall, they used to be in this conference. And now they're back. And what I love is the fact that all these accounts that are tied to the University of Colorado, the people like the guy who helped spearhead the decision to leave the Big 12 are all like, oh, we're so excited to be back. Yeah. It's like, if you love the conference so much, why didn't you stay? But they're excited to be back, dang it. Because the alternative is they hang out with Oregon State and Washington State and play a Mount West schedule. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun in the Big 12. And like, look, I thought they were right to move to the Pac-12. I did. And given the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, it was the right move to go to the Big 12. It is. But I promise you that CU, if what went down with the Pac-12 didn't go down, they would be very much happy to stay in the Pac-12. They went there for a reason. Just funny. It's just funny that excited to be back. We're home. Okay. All right, see you. That's fine. The new kickoff rule in the National Football League. I'm not a fan. Some of you are more amenable to it. From the 719, this is a great point. Like most things, we love to hate it because it's changed. But man, can we jump on that bandwagon support train after our team benefits from it more than not, and vice versa? I think that's a great point. But I will tell you this. You're right about the general population. You are not correct about me. Because I am, in many ways, forever entrenched in my ideas. No, it's funny. I get accused sometimes of being always the latest thing is the best thing, especially when it comes to athletes. This is the best generation of this, of that. But yet, when it comes to changes within the sport, I am actually quite standoffish. Just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, when Team USA played Australia, and they had that debacle with VAR, right? It looked like VAR wasn't working, and then they were on a cell phone, and I don't know what was going on. When it comes to video replay review, VAR, what it is in the NFL, I don't like it. And I want it to go away. And my teams have benefited from it on occasion. I don't think the new kickoff is going to be a hill I will die on, like the video replay review. But I'm just telling you, I don't foresee myself ever going, this is great. I just don't see it. I can learn to accept it. I'll talk about the strategy, and I do believe that to your point, there will be teams that will figure this thing out quicker than others, and we may see it move the needle towards them winning. And it will influence people's decisions on whether they like this or not. It's not ruining the game, but neither is the 7th playoff team, and I absolutely hate it. I don't see changing my tune. And then watch. Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year off of a kickoff return for a touchdown. That might be my highest rated show ever if that happens. Everyone tuning in to see if I'm going to talk about how good the new kickoff rule is. I've always said the new kickoff rule is great. From the 719, you can't say the kickoff wasn't so exciting when Devin Hester was returning it because you never knew if it was going to be a touchdown or not. Look, I enjoyed watching kickoff returns, and I think I know what you're getting at, that there's going to be an anticipation even if the results don't bear it out. I think I'm reading that. Like, I liked kickoff returns, but I liked the kickoff returns when these players were putting their bodies in harm's way. And then I realized, oh, that's not good. Right? When I didn't know, we were naive when it came to some of these things. We probably should have known. We probably should have been accepting that, hey, this isn't safe. It's not our job, though. It's the NFL's job, and they were slow to it for a different reason. I'm glad that this is proven to be safer than the old way of doing it. I guess I've just let go. I've let go. I enjoyed the kickoff return while it lasted, and now I've become acclimated to no kickoff returns or barely any kickoff returns, and I'm okay with it. This isn't necessary. And last night, the one thing that I know will go away is the awkwardness of it. The view of it, that picture, you'll get used to it. But I don't see this enhancing the experience for me. For some people, it might, because guess what? More bets you can make on a kickoff return. I understand it. I don't have to like it. Steve G very simply puts, I like anything that brings more action to the field. I'm good with the amount of action. It's as action-packed the game of football as it needs to be with me. Mark Moses last hour, Sports Radio 1560, came on and thinks it's going to go the way of the dodo bird or the way of the that slippery basketball that the NBA brought on. I'm not there. I think they instituted this with the full intention of keeping it around and normalizing it. I don't see it going away anytime soon, but they'll see what the focus groups say. Chris weighing in says, no Bo Nix. John Elway hates he didn't draft Josh Allen because he still believes, as most national media at the time did, that the Broncos were a quarterback away from a Super Bowl 3 years ago. This facilitated the Russell Wilson trade and was not true in any way. I think there's truth to that. But what Josh Allen became, that's what John Elway regrets. John Elway regrets what Josh Allen became because it makes him look bad. The reason he didn't draft Josh Allen was not because he thought the team was too far away or anything like that. It's because he drafted Paxton Lynch and he got absolutely torched by it. And so that offseason, that offseason leading into Josh Allen's draft, he got Case Keenum. He's like, I'm going to go the veteran route. Forget these young quarterbacks. And it turned him off of the idea completely. Now, from what I understand, there were some attributes in Sam Darnold that if he were to be available when the Broncos were selecting, that they would seriously entertain it. But I think what little John Elway saw of Josh Allen, he saw another quarterback with accuracy issues that needed development, and that may make a lot of mistakes. And he just went through that with Paxton Lynch, and he wasn't going to do it again. So he got a predictable, if not wholly unspectacular quarterback in Case Keenum and said, I know what I can get from this guy. And then your point, Chris, about how they're not a quarterback away proved itself out because Case Keenum did not produce. I'm not saying Bo Nix is the missing piece for the Denver Broncos. Okay, they have a lot of work to do. But can he show this year that he's worth investing in? They're not one quarterback away. They're not a 10-win team. This is a 4-win roster with a 9-win coach. And what side is going to rule the day? But if Bo Nix can at least show some signs of maybe that's all they need to find out. Is he worth building around? It's not about him leading them to the playoffs. They have no chance. No chance they're going to be in the playoff conversation this year. But Bo Nix, I brought up Daniel Jones. And I know that's going to immediately elicit me saying that Bo Nix isn't going to be any good. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's possible for a quarterback to play well and look good and make a team feel like he's worth investing in while not winning a lot of games. And I see that that's a potential outcome this season in Denver. But this is just about knowing if Bo Nix is worth building around. Because, look, if Bo Nix can turn into Kirk Cousins, if he can turn into Alex Smith, if he could turn into Jared Goff, yes, you have to do a lot of other right stuff around him to make it work, but other teams have done that. I think his ceiling is a quarterback that about the time it's time for him to get paid, you're going to be like, is he worth it? I mean, he's good, but, right? Tua, Lawrence, Cousins, Dak even. Right? These quarterbacks that are due for a contract, and it's like, I mean, could do worse, but are they really like that's the ceiling for Bo Nix? But the first step is, does this guy have anything worth investing $100 million in cap space or whatever the Broncos will have and surround him with talent? That's what this season is about. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, have you been following this saga with Brandon Ayuk? People in Pittsburgh are freaking out because they think they got a new wide receiver. We'll talk about it next. Tomorrow night, you're going to want to be at Widener Field to celebrate back to school as the Switchbacks take on Phoenix Rising. After the match, there will be a fun back-to-school fireworks display. And before the match, when the gates open at 6, a very limited amount of fans will get a special edition Switchbacks hat provided by Phil Long Dealerships, switchbacksfc.com to get your tickets. So here's the situation. And please don't launch into Fresh Prince or DJ Jazzy Jeff. The U.S. is now currently in Pot D with Germany. This is for the men's Olympic basketball. As of right now, the U.S. would most likely, as of right now, the U.S. would play Brazil. I'm sorry, because you can't play team in your group. And I expect that to hold up. Unless South Sudan is eliminated in Greece, gets in there, and then we could have Giannis versus the United States in the quarterfinals. Could you imagine Steve Kerr rolling Joel Embiid out there to go against Giannis and then Jokic? Unthinkable. Unthinkable. Cannot happen. Wouldn't that be quite the path to the gold medal game? You have to go through Giannis, and then you have to go through Jokic. Yeah, Joel Embiid can't be. I don't care what DNP he hands out tomorrow. Do what you want. Experiment, whatever. We'll still, I mean, we might complain about it, but, you know, you do you. I'm just saying there is no use for Joel Embiid from here on out. None. So if you want to get him some minutes against Puerto Rico, let him, you know, play well and make him feel good and make it like it was worth him joining Team USA and then bench him the rest of the way, then that's fine. Giannis and Jokic potentially for Team USA. But they play Puerto Rico tomorrow to close out the group, and everything will be sorted out. The Serbia-South Sudan game has more weight to it, and Giannis will be watching intently, needing Serbia to take care of business. So Giannis needs Jokic. Then also tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., Mallory Swanson, Sophia Smith, and Lindsey Horan will lead Team USA against Japan in their final group stage match. So if you were like, oh, I don't want to get up early on the weekend, it's the last match of group stage. So US is already through. You can skip. You can skip if you want. You'll see the Colorado trio into next week. But the real question going into the weekend is, will we see Brandon Ayuk in black and gold? Or black and yellow? Definitely black and yellow, right? Wiz Khalifa did a whole song about it. Is he going to the Steelers? Pittsburgh Steeler fans are treating Brandon Ayuk like Broncos fans treated Peyton Manning. And I remember. You know why I remember? Because I was around. I was in it. It was finding charter flights and their itineraries. And, that one's going from, okay, so Peyton Manning's visiting with the Cardinals, and then he's going to fly here. Ooh, there's one flight coming from Phoenix into Denver. This is what happened with Peyton Manning. Identifying tail numbers on planes. And the Steelers are doing this for Brandon Ayuk. With Peyton Manning, it was the chance to finally be rid of Tim Tebow and bring in one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Yes, Peyton Manning had some health concerns, but there was real excitement about Peyton Manning coming to Denver. Steelers fans are that way with Brandon Ayuk. It's gotten crazy. People claiming they saw Brandon Ayuk in the Pittsburgh airport renting a car from Hertz. It would not be totally shocking if Brandon Ayuk ended up on the Pittsburgh Steelers. It would be shocking if he had to rent his own car at Hertz. And then charter flight. Oh, there's a charter flight from San Francisco to Pittsburgh. He wasn't at practice today. I love what social media has brought us. Like chasing charter flights and supposed eyewitness accounts of someone arriving in a city. Not to mention the fact that we can go and find out who these athletes are following, and once they unfollow the team they play for, we can take that as they're done and they're going somewhere else. I love it. But it will drive you crazy. So we'll see if Brandon Ayuk does end up being a Pittsburgh Steeler. They need to worry about their quarterback situation first. I don't think that the Steelers players want Russell Wilson to be their quarterback. I don't think so. I think they want Justin Fields. I mean, they fought the defense on Justin Fields' behalf. That's their quarterback. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Will Brandon Ayuk be in Pittsburgh, and who will be throwing him the football? We'll find out. Probably over the weekend when we're all busy doing other things. That's when the news will drop, because that's what usually happens. It's not a Friday news dump anymore. It's like legitimately middle of the day Saturday stuff. Like the other day, Broncos, we've been waiting to hear from Bo Nix all that first week of camp, and they make him available on a Saturday? Come on, Sean. Come on now. Play along. You were in the media. Play along. Put him out there on a Wednesday or a Thursday. No such luck. More medals for Team USA. Let's check the updated medal count. You know what? Westwood One will do it for us. But chance for the U.S. to bounce back tomorrow with a variety of teams in action. Again, women's soccer, men's basketball. Women's basketball will be on Sunday. But to me, going into the weekend, that 3x3, it's getting good. Still don't see anybody writing articles about how good they were today. So we'll see. Much going on with the Olympics. And then don't forget Switchbacks. Switchbacks FC tomorrow night. Taking on Phoenix Rising. Hope to maybe see you out there or at least come out. You don't have to come see me, but check out the match. Been a couple weeks since the Switchbacks tasted victory, so need one tomorrow night. My thanks to Mark Moses of the Mark Moses Show on Sports Radio 1560 in Central Florida for joining me, as well as Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 Sports. Make sure you check his sportscast out tonight at 10 o'clock. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Appreciate the interaction. Appreciate you listening, watching, as you continue to do. I know you're out there, and I legitimately appreciate you putting up with me on a daily basis. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll reconvene Monday at 3. How does that sound?